This weekend, for the seventh night in a row, American warplanes struck targets inside Iran. Then Iran struck back, hitting a desalination plant that supplies water to some 10,000 people and knocking power units offline across the border in Kuwait. And this morning, the price of oil is the highest it has been in over a month. This is KnowFlo Daily. Good morning. It's Monday, July 20th. Here's what's on the front page. Britain is getting a new prime minister today. Andy Burnham, the former mayor of Greater Manchester, will formally take office this afternoon after being nominated unopposed by 379 members of parliament to become leader of the Labour Party. He will give his first address from the steps of Downing Street. He replaces Keir Starmer, who resigned, and he becomes Britain's seventh prime minister in just over a decade. Burnham has been in the House of Commons for barely 4 weeks, and he is signaling a shift to the left on the economy, promising, in his words, tangible improvements in people's lives. He has framed it as a clean break from decades of Thatcher-era thinking with a message of national renewal. One early flashpoint is North Sea oil. President Trump praised Burnham over the weekend for reported plans to expand drilling, claiming that people in Aberdeen, Scotland were, quote, dancing in the streets. Labour was quick to push back, saying any change would be a shift in emphasis, not a reversal. The biggest pharmaceutical deal in South Korean history was announced this morning. Samsung Biologics agreed to buy the Swiss drug maker Polypeptide in an all-cash deal worth about $1.8 billion. Samsung is offering roughly 44 Swiss francs a share, a modest premium for a company that specializes in manufacturing peptides. Those are the building blocks behind a whole generation of new weight loss and diabetes drugs, which have become some of the most sought-after medicines in the world. Samsung is calling it the largest biopharmaceutical acquisition in South Korea's history, and it is expected to close by the end of the year. And a big deadline came and went in Washington on Friday, with nothing to show for it. 1 year ago, President Trump signed the Genius Act, the first major federal law regulating stablecoins, those digital tokens pegged to the dollar. The law gave regulators exactly 1 year to write the rules that would actually make it work. 6 agencies, from the Treasury to the Federal Reserve, put out 10 proposals, but not a single final rule was published before Friday's deadline. For an industry that lobbied hard for these very guardrails, the waiting continues, and the biggest questions about how stablecoins will actually be policed remain unanswered. But we begin in the Persian Gulf, with a war that is now reaching well beyond the battlefield and into the price of everything. Over the weekend, the United States military completed its 7th straight night of strikes against Iran, with the latest round ending at 9:30 on Friday evening, Eastern Time. Central Command said the targets included surveillance sites, military logistics, underground weapons storage, and Iran's ability to operate at sea. But it is Iran's response that is widening this conflict. Iranian strikes damaged bridges and hit a desalination plant in the southern province of Jask, cutting off water for roughly 10,000 people. And across the Gulf, small, oil-rich Kuwait took some of the worst damage yet, with strikes on its water and oil facilities that injured several people and forced power units offline. Kuwait is not even a direct party to this fight. That it was hit at all shows how quickly a war between Washington and Tehran can spill onto its neighbors, all of whom sit along the same crowded, narrow waterway. And that waterway is really the whole story this morning. It is called the Strait of Hormuz, a choke point at the mouth of the Persian Gulf, only about 20 miles wide at its narrowest. Roughly a fifth of the world's oil passes through it, on tankers, every single day. For a week now, as the two sides have traded fire, traders have been bracing for the possibility that the strait could be shut off. And this morning, you can see that fear in the numbers. Brent crude, the global benchmark, climbed above $91 a barrel, its highest price since June 11th. West Texas Intermediate, the American benchmark, rose right alongside it. Both had already jumped more than 4% at the end of last week, and this morning they kept climbing. Crude has surged all week, and the reason comes back to that single, narrow channel. If even a fraction of the oil that moves through Hormuz were held up, the effect would ripple through every economy that runs on it. Here is why that matters at your house. When the price of oil goes up, so does the price you pay at the pump, and eventually the cost of shipping the food and goods that move around the world. A conflict thousands of miles away has a way of showing up in your budget, quietly, a few weeks later. For now, there is no sign of a ceasefire, and no sign of the strikes letting up. 7 nights of American bombardment, Iranian missiles landing on neighbors who wanted no part of this, and the most important oil route on the planet hanging in the balance. Now to our main stories this morning, staying overseas for a moment, because there was another major attack overnight, this one on Ukraine. Russia hit Kyiv and other cities with what Ukraine is calling one of the largest ballistic missile assaults of the entire war, killing at least 6 people and wounding dozens. The barrage began around 1:30 in the morning. In all, Russia fired 41 missiles and 125 drones, with most of the missiles aimed squarely at the capital. Ukrainian air defenses managed to destroy or suppress 18 of the missiles and 108 of the drones. But the weapons that did get through sparked fires across 5 districts of Kyiv, damaging homes and apartment blocks, and sending families down into shelters in the middle of the night. Ukraine described it as one of the largest ballistic missile assaults of the whole war, and it comes as Western attention has drifted elsewhere. It is a hard reminder that, even as the world's focus has shifted to the Gulf, the war in Ukraine grinds on, and the nights in Kyiv are still anything but quiet. Next, to a public health emergency that is getting harder to contain by the day. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, an Ebola outbreak in the northeastern province of Ituri has now been declared the fastest growing on record. The numbers are sobering. 2,181 cases so far, and 864 deaths, and the response is being crippled from the inside. Authorities recorded at least a dozen attacks on health facilities and health workers, and many of those workers, who have gone unpaid, have walked off the job in the middle of an outbreak. The ripple effects are already crossing borders. Canada announced it will temporarily bar foreign nationals who have been in Congo within the past 3 weeks from entering the country, starting late Monday night and running through the end of August. The ban takes effect Monday night and runs through the end of August. Canadian citizens and permanent residents are exempt, though they will have to quarantine for 3 weeks if they have recently been there. It is the kind of border measure we last saw at the height of a pandemic. And it points to a hard truth about this outbreak, that the biggest obstacle is not the science of the disease, but the violence and the broken pay that are keeping health workers from doing their jobs. Now to the technology world, and a story that says a lot about where the artificial intelligence race is headed. A Chinese startup called Moonshot has just hit the brakes on new signups because its latest product is simply too popular. The company released a new AI model called Kimi, its 3rd version, on Friday. Within days, demand so far outstripped what the company expected that its computing clusters were pushed to their limits. So Moonshot paused new subscriptions and said it would reserve the computing power it does have for its existing paying customers who would not be affected. Here's the bigger picture. Moonshot is now valued at around $30 billion after raising more than $5.5 billion, and it reached that valuation only last month. It is now preparing for a possible public offering in Hong Kong. A Chinese company, straining under the sheer weight of demand for its own artificial intelligence, is a reminder that this race is very much a global one, and that the United States does not have it to itself. When the constraint is not ideas, but raw computing power, whoever can build the most of it holds the advantage. And finally, in our main stories, the one nearly everyone was watching. Spain are champions of the world. In the final, at MetLife Stadium just outside New York, Spain beat the defending champion, Argentina, 1-0 in extra time to win their 2nd World Cup. Argentina had been chasing history of its own, trying to become the first nation ever to win back-to-back titles. It was a strange, tense night. Argentina had a man sent off in stoppage time at the end of the first half and had to play the rest of the match a player short. Spain poured forward, outshooting Argentina 20-2, but could not break through until the 106th minute, when Ferran Torres finally scored the goal that settled it. Spain swept the individual honors, too. Their midfielder Rodri won the Golden Ball as the best player of the tournament. Goalkeeper Unai Simon took the award for best keeper after conceding just 1 goal in 8 matches, and a young defender, Pau Cubarsí, was named the best player under 21. There was history for a losing side, as well. France's Kylian Mbappé scored twice in the 3rd-place match to become the all-time top scorer in World Cup history, with 22 career goals, 1 clear of Lionel Messi. And for the first time ever, the final had a halftime show. Put together by Coldplay's Chris Martin, it featured Madonna, Justin Bieber, and the group BTS, with Shakira, and even the Muppets alongside the conductor Gustavo Dudamel. The show stretched what is normally a 15-minute break to more than 20. A World Cup final on American soil that borrowed a page straight from the Super Bowl. After a month of soccer played across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, it was a fitting and very American way to close out the tournament. And before we go, a few quick ones to send you into your Monday. Some reassuring news at the grocery store. The Food and Drug Administration said this weekend that a lettuce sample from Taylor Farms, which had tested positive for a parasite called Cyclospora, was actually a false alarm. After a second look, lab experts said the result did not hold up, and the agency apologized to the company. As of Sunday, there were no confirmed positive samples. 2 big gadget events are right around the corner. Samsung holds its Unpacked event in London on Tuesday, where it is expected to show off not 1 but 2 book-style folding phones for the first time. And Google has scheduled its own event in New York for August 12th to unveil the Pixel 11, though the early leaks suggest a price increase is coming. A small landmark in the crypto world. Zapper, one of the best-known dashboards for tracking decentralized finance, announced it will shut down on August 3rd after 7 years. At its peak, it served more than 2 million users a month and handled over $13 billion in transactions. The founder's blunt explanation: at the end of the day, the market decides. And finally, look up. On August 12th, a total solar eclipse will sweep across Greenland, Iceland, and northern Spain, the first total eclipse visible from Europe since 1999. The path of totality is just 183 miles wide, and here in the northeastern United States, we will catch a partial view. It is Europe's first total solar eclipse since the last century, and Spain, fresh off its World Cup win, is expected to be one of the best places on Earth to watch it. One worth marking on the calendar. And that's the news for Monday, July 20th. The morning belongs to the Persian Gulf, where a seventh night of American strikes and Iran's retaliation against its own neighbors has pushed oil to a 1-month high and put the world's most important shipping lane on edge. Elsewhere, Britain wakes up to a new prime minister, an Ebola outbreak in Congo becomes the fastest growing on record, and a Chinese AI company is so swamped with demand it had to stop taking new customers. But we will end on the pitch. Spain are world champions, Ferran Torres, the unlikely hero, and Kylian Mbappe walks away with a record that even Messi could not hold on to. Thanks, as always, for starting your week with us. Take care of yourselves out there. And with that, we are done. That was KnowFlo Daily. Sign up for your personalized newsletter at knowflo.io. News picked for you, your local news included, free.